Hi everyone, my name is Felipa, and this is day 42 of my year-long reading plan to complete this Bible. So today I'm still in Deuteronomy, chapter 27. The people are commanded to write the law upon stones. And essentially God is saying you should write up all my commandments on the stones of the words of this law very plainly. So I think that's important, very plainly. And you should have it all across your cities and everywhere you should see it, and you should obey my voice. There's also a bunch of comments about reciting the curses for disobedience, essentially everything you can possibly think. So if you're praying to a false god, if you're being rude to your mom and dad, if you are making people, like it says here, cursed be he that maketh the blind to wander out of the way. So when you're being like rude to people, if you are taking advantage of the stranger, of the fatherless, and of the widow, if you sleep with people you shouldn't be sleeping with, if you're sleeping with your family members, if you are killing your neighbor, lots of different laws and basically curses. So you will be cursed if you do these things. And reciting the blessings for obedience. So basically just always saying, I'm blessed for my basket and my store and for my food and for when I go in and when I go out and for the fruit of my body and fruit of my ground, like everything. I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. And interesting here so this is chapter 28, verse 12. Part of the verse says, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. This is really interesting too, because it's essentially saying you are in the power and in the position to lend to people, but not to borrow because you're so abundant. You don't need to borrow. God will provide for you if you are, in fact, upkeeping these commandments and your faith in God. Then we go into more curses from the Lord. I really like this part too here, verse 15. It says that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And I like this part because it's basically saying, like, for every wicked thing you do, every wicked thing that you think, I will curse you, and it will affect your land and your sheep and your body and your basket. And you will be sick, and you will not have rain, and enemies will come against you, and you will not have sanity. Like, it basically says the curses will overtake thee. So it doesn't matter what type of a curse is overall, it'll at some point wear you down. And even here in verse 29, it says, and thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. So like this first part here, that you will grope at noonday as the blind grope in the darkness, like essentially every day you will suffer and you will look for release from the suffering, and no man will even save you. And so we continue with a bunch more of these curses, and how you will not have happiness or relief from them. And it says here in verse 65, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. So once again, like, you will not find solace anywhere, and particularly in your heart and in your mind. There is a notion or a section here on those presented before the Lord to enter into his covenant. So which people can and cannot come into the covenant before the Lord. In verse 29 here, it says, the secret things belong unto the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. So essentially, we are part of God's plan, is really what this is really saying. And keeping that trust in God, that he sees the things that belong to his eyes, and those things that he chooses to reveal to us are ours forever, and the things that we may do in the words of that law. And we continue on to this little section here, which I really enjoy, which it says the commandment is not hard. Essentially, like God even says, it is not in heaven that thou should say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it. So you don't need to go to heaven. You don't need to cross the sea. You don't need to do anything, but know it in your mouth and in your heart and do it. That's the biggest one. Do it. Don't just know it, but do it. And the choice between death and life, essentially, if you're following in the path of the Lord, you will have life. If you have cursings, they're the opposite of blessings, obviously, and you will face death. You will not live. Tomorrow is day 43. I start on chapter 31. Joshua will lead the people, and I think this is my last section of Deuteronomy before I move on to Joshua. So I will see you tomorrow.